Welcome back to the Grace Smith podcast. I'm your host, Grace Smith, and I'm so excited to have you here for another episode. Today, we're diving into weeks 5 through 8 of the protocol from my book, Close Your Eyes, Lose Weight. Over the last couple of episodes, we've laid the groundwork with foundational habits and mindset shifts. Now we're going to go a little deeper as we address some of the emotional blocks and confidence challenges that can arise as you continue your weight loss journey. In week 5 of my protocol, we focus on identifying and overcoming the emotional blocks that can often stand in the way of lasting weight loss. Many people think weight loss is all about food and exercise, but as we've been establishing, the emotional side of the equation is just as important, if not more so. If you're holding on to old emotional baggage, whether it's fear, anger, guilt, or unresolved trauma, it can manifest in your eating habits and your ability to maintain progress. When we use food to cope with emotions, we tend to eat unconsciously, and that can lead to overeating, emotional eating, or choosing unhealthy foods as a way to numb or comfort ourselves. Emotional eating often leads to guilt, which can trigger more emotional eating, creating a vicious cycle. The more we eat to cope with emotions, the more we feel guilty, and the cycle continues, making it harder to break free and build healthier habits. But here's the good news. When you recognize the cycle, you can begin to break out of it, but you've got to do it at the subconscious level. And hypnosis is an incredibly powerful tool for this. By accessing your subconscious mind, hypnosis helps you break the pattern of emotional eating and replace it with healthier, more empowering coping mechanisms. Instead of reaching for food to deal with emotions, you can learn to handle those emotions in healthier, more constructive ways. I encourage you to take some time to reflect on any emotional blocks you might have related to your weight loss journey in the past. Are there any feelings or past experiences that might be affecting your relationship with food? Now, you're identifying these things at the conscious level, which is a great exercise and a wonderful first step. But the truth is, what really matters is the subconscious emotional blockages, which you can only ascertain and find out about either through listening to a hypnosis recording or by working with a hypnotherapist one-on-one. So just know whatever you find at the conscious level is just literally the tip of the iceberg. Once you've identified these, go ahead, write them down, acknowledge them, and then you can listen to the week 5 emotional eating hypnosis session from the Grace Hypnotherapy app to begin releasing those emotions and clearing the path for more empowering habits. Now, I remember when I stopped drinking in December 2025, it'll be 15 years. And one of the things that I heard all the time was when you first get sober, that's when you're going to finally feel your feelings because the alcohol is not taking those feelings away. This happens in this week. When we stop the emotional eating, you start to feel your feelings, and it can be very overwhelming at first. But we don't learn from what those feelings are telling us. We don't understand the source of where they came from in the first place if we just keep burying them under a dopamine release through something that was created in a lab to trigger the pleasure centers of our brain. So I want you to know it requires bravery, and I'm proud of you. You will become so much more resilient and understand yourself so much better when you allow yourself to feel those feelings and develop healthier coping mechanisms along the way. Week 6, moving on to the 6th week, we are halfway through our 12-week protocol, and we are going to address a common and often unconscious habit, eating when bored. You've probably experienced this. Sitting around, nothing to do, and suddenly finding yourself heading to the kitchen, reaching for food even though you're not physically hungry. This can happen at any time, but especially while watching TV or scrolling through your phone. But here's the thing. Eating when bored doesn't actually satisfy us. Instead, it's often a way to fill a void or distract ourselves from the discomfort of boredom. What's really happening when we reach for food in these situations? Well, food can trigger, again, that release of dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter. This is part of the brain's reward system that makes us feel good when we eat, even if we're not truly hungry. That rush of dopamine can temporarily make us feel better, but it doesn't address the underlying cause of the boredom or the emotional need we're attempting to satisfy. Over time, this can become an automatic habit, reaching for food to feel better, even when we don't feel particularly bad, and even when it's not the right solution. The good news is we can break this cycle, and we'll do so by introducing 3 powerful antidotes to eating when bored. These antidotes not only help interrupt the automatic habit of mindlessly eating, but also teach you to respond to boredom in more positive, fulfilling ways. First, become consciously aware of the fact that you're eating, since most of boredom eating is actually unconscious. Second, learn new ways of dealing with boredom. Find activities that bring you joy and satisfaction, like calling a friend, walking in nature, or practicing a hobby. These alternatives help you get the dopamine boost you need without turning to food. And lastly, over time, train yourself to take different actions altogether when boredom sets in. Now, I help you with all 3 of those steps in the Eating When Bored recording on the Grace Hypnotherapy app. So if this is one that particularly resonates with you, then when you get to week 6, you will be pleasantly surprised by what happens when you use these 3 antidotes instead of heading to the pantry when bored. 2 other quick things. I find myself having to tell my children a lot that boredom is a great state. It's where we can think of really great ideas and have breakthroughs, and just learning to be able to sit in that boredom is also a very powerful skill in and of itself. And this makes me think of when I was younger and AOL Instant Messenger was a brand new thing, and I wasn't spending tons of time on it, but I was spending plenty of time on it, as all other kids in the early 90s, I think, were, if they had their dial-up connection. And I remember my mom saying to me, if you had spent even half the time that you did on AOL Instant Messenger practicing piano, you'd be playing at Carnegie Hall right now. And I think, that's an exaggeration, but she's not wrong. I don't know what I was talking about or who I was talking to, but it was not a great use of time. And when we can convince our subconscious for ourselves, not because our mom is telling us to, but that our time is precious, and whether we are learning to sit in the boredom and be present with it, or whether we are going to use that time to learn a new language or read a book or do a craft that lights us up, just thinking we should do that isn't enough, but training our subconscious to actually do it gives us hours and hours and hours back in our life, and time is our most precious commodity. So that's a fun way to approach week 6 as well, is to think about, if I spent half my time on this, would I be playing piano at Carnegie Hall? Or what is the thing that you would love to excel at, be better at, get that time back? So it's not always just about the food, it's also about your time. So be thinking about that as you dive into week 6. Moving on to week 7. In week 7, we focus on a behavior many of us were trained to do, using food as a reward. Whether it's celebrating a small victory or soothing yourself after a stressful day, food can become the go-to reward. While rewarding yourself is important and beneficial, using food as the reward can lead to unhealthy associations with eating and hinder your progress. When we use food as a reward, we're not actually addressing the underlying emotion we want to satisfy. Instead, we're using food to mask those feelings, which can lead to overeating and negative cycles of emotional eating. This can create a subconscious belief that food is the only way to feel good or be rewarded. The goal here is to reprogram that belief and create new ways to celebrate and reward yourself that are healthier and more sustainable. The habit of using food as a reward often starts in childhood. Many of us were taught that food was a way to celebrate good behavior or soothe difficult emotions. Think back to when you were a child. Did your parents reward you with a treat after a job well done, or use food to comfort you when you were upset? These early experiences shape how we view food as an adult. Through hypnotherapy, we can reprogram the subconscious mind to help you let go of using food as a reward. Hypnosis works by addressing the emotional and subconscious connections you've made with food, replacing those habits with new, healthier ways to reward yourself. When you break this connection, you're free to enjoy food for what it is, nourishment rather than a tool for emotional comfort. A quick way to start addressing this topic is to take a moment to reflect on how you have used food as a reward in the past. Is it after a long day of work or when you've finished a project? Something that can clue you in is the phrase, I deserve this. What is your brain telling you you deserve, and why is it telling you to deserve it? After what action? Just so you can start to map out the subconscious belief system. Once you identify those patterns, you can create a list of non-food rewards that you can turn to. These could be things like taking a relaxing bath, treating yourself to a favorite activity, or another moment of self-care. Then our week 7 recording, Rewiring Reward, will help you swap out these rewards at the subconscious level. Now, when I first wrote this book, it was published in 2020. My kids were a lot littler than they are now. And I swore up and down I would not do this to my children. I would not program their subconscious mind with food as a reward. And I quickly learned this would require me to never go to a birthday party, never let my children go to a birthday party, completely change a lot of the traditions around Christmas and Easter and different holidays. My husband and I have been very intentional about attempting to minimize the amount of sugar-laden, chemically constructed things that our little kids, that our, little babies are consuming, but we have not gone the full extent of we create homemade granola bars and that's the sweetest thing anybody eats. We definitely do allow our kids to have some of these treats, and some of them do show up as what looks like rewards. The way that we are balancing this so that I'm just always thinking, how can I make it easier for my kids to not fall into these traps so they don't have to spend all this time as adults rewiring it without leaving them out of the entire cultural experience that all of their friends are having. So we have created other rewards as well. They love, for example, playing freeze tag. So one of the rewards that we'll build in, if they do something great happens at school, or they have a great karate tournament or a great tennis lesson, we will reward them with games that they love to play. Whether it's freeze tag or whether it's Uno or it's something that they like to ask us to do, we will suggest it on the heels of that thing. So I want you to know you don't have to be 100% sugar-free in order to help raise your kids with a better rewarding system in their subconscious mind, but you do have to be pretty intentional about it. You have to think about it a lot on the front end, and then you got to practice it and stick to it so that it becomes normal for your family. So far, it appears to be working out, but as parents, we got to cut ourselves some slack. We want to learn from our upbringings, do better this time around if we can, and know that we don't have all of the answers. We're all doing the best that we can. But I think just by being intentional about it on the front end, we're already going to be making a positive difference in the lives of our children and their subconscious development. All right, that brings us to week 8. In week 8, we focus on something many of us overlook: the people and places that trigger us. When someone is getting sober, for example, they often are asked by their sponsor to identify the people and places that trigger the desire to use alcohol or their previous drug of choice. It's powerful to model this as you require your brain to lose weight in order to fall in love with the body you currently have. So, for example, the Starbucks drive-thru on the way home, your great aunt's house, your favorite ice cream place down the shore. When various people and places are consciously avoided, at least in the beginning while you're creating a new normal, you will increase your likelihood of success. And this is only until your conditioned neural pathways are strong enough to go there with your new mindset and your habits firmly in place. So the first step is to breaking the cycle of spending time with triggering people and places, but you've got to become aware of them, right? It would not make sense for someone who is newly sober to go to their favorite bar every night and sit around the people they used to drink with and try to white knuckle it and say no over and over again. It's much more supportive to the creation of their new identity, their new habits, their new healthier lifestyle to just not go to that place for a very long time, potentially never go back to that place. But we don't want you to have to avoid your great aunt's home forever. We do need to give you the space and the time to create new neural pathways that are strong enough to support you when you do go back. When we identify the people or places that trigger emotional eating, we can avoid them lovingly at first. Now, in the couple of circumstances where you can't avoid them, I share a few helpful tips for those places, those people on page 198 in Close Your Eyes, Lose Weight. And here are a few quick tips. Now, there's a process that I teach in my foundational book, Close Your Eyes, Get Free. It's the cancel technique. We can use this, for example, if you've been doing extremely well, all of a sudden you find yourself eating a cookie. The brain loves to go, oh, I already messed up for the day. I might as well just eat whatever I want for the rest of the day and restart tomorrow. So having a thought like that, not helpful, because one cookie is one thing. Eating lots of things that you know from your intuitive eating development are not good for your body, your brain, your emotions long term for the rest of the day just because you had that one cookie that is not adaptive. So you can use the cancel technique anytime your brain tries to tell you you already quote unquote ruined the day. Reframe that and replace it with something like, I am safe. I am calm. Food is fuel. And by doing that, you've kind of settled down the nervous system. You can get back on track, back to eating things that nourish you, back to eating things that are nutrient dense. And then that cookie has way less of an impact. We don't have to quote unquote make it bad. You just move on with your day back on track. Another great thing to remember at this point are the foundations from week 1. So no matter what you're eating, drink a glass of water first. Chew it thoroughly and stop when you're 80% satisfied. This prevents overeating, even with things that are not on your intuitive eating list. There's something called aversion therapy. Now, this is not something I always recommend, especially not for folks with a history of disordered eating. But for folks who don't have that, aversion therapy works like a charm and it works very quickly. So it's important for you to know that it's there. Now, if you're eating something that's not on your intuitive eating list, meaning categorically you know it is unhealthy, instead of saying, this is so good in your brain, as you eat it, you can think, yuck, there's so many additives in this. This is just made from total garbage. This was created in a lab to be addictive. Ugh, I am so excited for my next healthy choice. So this weakens the association between pleasure and old unhealthy foods that used to show up with prevalence in your life. Now, again, if aversion therapy feels uncomfortable due to past struggles with disordered eating, please just skip it altogether. However, for everybody else, this is a very powerful technique and can change how the brain responds to unhealthy food, replacing old habits with healthier, more supportive choices. So it's optional. It's up to you. Feel into it intuitively. See how it feels. If it feels like, yeah, this makes sense for me, I'm excited for you to see how much it can help. And I'm excited for you in general to listen to the hypnosis recording for this topic. You can use it so that your subconscious will have a powerful plan of action to avoid any triggering people and places, especially in the beginning. The more you avoid people and places where slip-ups were most likely to occur, especially in the beginning, the more you set yourself up for success. Realistically, sometimes these people, places, and things are unavoidable. So in those situations, you just put those fundamentals from episode 1 in this series to work and make sure you're always focused on what's more helpful with each and every choice. All right, your homework assignment for this week is to get back into the Grace Hypnotherapy app. You can download it for free. You can find the link in the show notes. Then you're going to hit the little headphones at the bottom of the app, find our entire course library, scroll down until you find the Close Your Eyes, Lose Weight section of the app. And you're just going to go in chronological order. When we started this mini series, your first homework assignment was to listen to the prep week to get motivated. So everyone will be on a different week at a different time, depending on when you listen to this podcast mini series. So just go in chronological order. Give each recording at least 1 week and then move on to the very next one. So go ahead, get back into the app, find out which one is next for you in line, and get listening once a day, every day until our next episode. This brings us to the end of part 3 of our mini series. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode. I hope today's insights about overcoming emotional blocks, reprogramming old behaviors, and creating awareness around your triggers have been helpful as you continue on your weight loss journey. If you found this episode valuable, please share it with a friend, loved one, or colleague who might benefit from these insights too. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a comment or review, and tune in next time when we'll dive in and support your weight loss goals for the long run. Until then, take care and have a wonderful day.